Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And today's voice is, well, he's in shock, guys, but Carly joined me today, who is an avid listener. And actually, we connected a while back in your prep where we're going to share a little story to intro this one, to just sort of build up a bit of the picture as to where we've connected and grown a very strong friendship. So, Carly actually reached out over message on Instagram, and you sent me a message off the back of listening to a pod and
Mhm.
some of your physique shots. Now, I had a look, and then I was like, right, I was actually, I remember the day I was walking to Sainsbury's. I was like, I'll do my walk to Sainsbury's and then I'll have a look. And the message had disappeared, but I remembered your handle. So I searched, and obviously I messaged you saying I saw you'd sent a message and some physique shots, just to let you know, sort of no pressure, but I'd love to connect with you. And then it went from there. But that just gives a bit of insight into the world of Instagram, how
It is.
it's you want to reach out sometimes, don't you? But it's
Yeah.
quite overwhelming to sort of
Mhm.
make a step, right?
It is. It is a crazy one, especially when you've been watching people like on a podcast as well. And there's in my eyes where you sit, like the four of you, is quite high in that industry. So what you say actually carries a lot of weight. So I'm not someone who's just going to go, oh, have a look at me to just anybody, and the conversations that you were having on the podcast was relevant to me, like sending the pictures. But the thing with it is like with ADHD, which we'll touch on, you get like this real rejection sensitivity. And it almost feels like, so say because you didn't reply straight away, I was like, oh, I bet she's inundated. And I just got really embarrassed, deleted it, because I'd rather not have to deal with the fact of seeing someone's read your message and then hasn't bothered to, not bothered, but hasn't responded. And the way the ADHD works, your brain goes from one thing to another thing. And then the next thing, you just deleted the message and you just kind of like try
Mhm.
and ignore, because it's a funny thing. But yeah, you message back and it kind of went from there. And I explained straight up, I think pretty much straight away, why. Not to just seem like some weirdo that sent you something and then just deleted it for no reason. But yeah, it's gone from strength to strength though, isn't it, from there?
Yeah, for sure. And also as well, with the ADHD, it's something I've certainly learned more about. And I find it's fascinating because although ADHD, like, autism or anything like that, there's sort of a spectrum, isn't there?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
it's like each person with ADHD will be slightly different, but there's going to be commonalities and traits that you share.
Mhm.
And it's been certainly an exploration for myself to learn
Yeah.
more about ADHD as a whole for yourself, for clients I work with, and just learning to love that different brain,
It is.
how
It
it
is
works.
mad.
It's
It is a
fascinating.
crazy one. You can never think in like a straight line, or you'll be going for a straight line for a set period of time, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, there's something out there. And then that pulls another thought, and then there's another thought, and then there's something else. So, like Will or any of my mates that hang around with me, like quite often, I refer to myself as an onion. And if I'm having one of my real kind of like days, we go from one layer to another, to another, to another, to another, to before the next, you're like, oh my God, how have I got here? So having routine, making sure that like all those boxes are ticked, even if I don't want to get up and do my cardio and I don't want to get to the gym, I have to do those things, because if I don't tick, say, those five boxes, life isn't very comfortable.
Mm.
And not that life's comfortable, because comfort zone is the worst place to be, but it's not very nice in here, and then everything else becomes a lot more unmanageable. So yeah, the gym, bodybuilding definitely has saved me from myself and probably my life, I'd say, in fairness, 100%. Actually committing to it now and going, the gym is what's saving me. It's not, do you know what I mean? Everything else. You duck
Mm.
out of the gym thinking the gym's the problem, when it's not. It's the gym that's actually keeping you stable, but you convince yourself outside life is more important. And
Mm.
that's where it all goes like, ugh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
you don't get it.
it gives us that purpose because of course the gym is associated with, as you say, some people maybe if they're not brought into bodybuilding, they're doing it because they feel they have to. It's sort of like, oh, gotta go to the gym. And I've had periods of time over, and I'm sure you have, where it's like, oh God, but then you realize actually, once you get there, you train.
Hmm.
It's a thing. Whereas if you're really not doing it for the right reasons, it's gonna feel like that all the time. Like I've tried to get people into the gym. My ex-husband, as an example, it was just impossible because he didn't want to do it. So,
Yeah.
there is a huge difference there. But even when you go to the gym as someone outside of bodybuilding, the endorphins, everything you get there, that then associating with, like you say, it might feed into the sort of more level head that you can get if you train, if you keep that structure and
Oh yeah.
healthy.
Like if I don't stick to my training, and if I don't live like that regimented lifestyle, I start eating what I shouldn't be eating. Then the next day I'm going out. Then it's like life just becomes like almost like a binge cycle again. And then before you know it, you're back in a place where you're actually really unhappy with how you look, how you feel, because the food that you're eating is not actually food, it's processed stuff, which just plays havoc with your hormones anyway. And as someone with ADHD, people think it's like you can't keep still or like you've got this hyperactive. It's not. It's totally different in women as to is in men, and every person is different. But it's if you live on that crap like I have done, I've dipped in and out. And through my kind of early 20s, especially with my dad being a bodybuilder himself and being like, you should be training, you should be doing this, not like Hitler, but literally laying it down to be, this is what you should be doing. Instead of actually listening to him, I kind of went further down and went into that like eating, drinking. I got to a point that I was like a size 18. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're happy, right? But the way that I got there and the way that it wasn't good, wasn't healthy, I wasn't happy. Drinking on the weekends. There's pictures of me where I'm like, yeah, I look really happy, but inside, not a chance. And then I get into the gym and I get in a really good cycle, and then something would happen that would fall out, and then that would happen again. And every time I fall out with the gym, life pretty much goes back to that kind of crazy cut my hair off because I'm bored, where actually it's not. It's just because I'm not managing what's going on in my head. So people might see bodybuilding to the extremity that I do it as a bit much. But for me to keep a level head is what I need to do. But for anybody who thinks that they might have it, seriously, the drugs, the drink, the crap foods, that late cycle, it's just going to make you worse. So like drop it if you can and try and do something better. It doesn't have to be the gym. It can be biking, it can be mountain climbing, it can be walking outside. But just talking from experience with me, not having a routine where you tick boxes on a daily basis. Oh, life's chaotic, man. It's not fun. And it's not fun for your friends and your people and your family around you as well, because there's nothing they can do.
Yeah, yeah. I think as well for you, it's like that reflection of, as you touched on there, the extreme nature you do it. So competing as a bodybuilder, right, is extreme.
Yeah,
And, it'd be interesting actually to talk about when you go through the depths of prep, you're obviously still sort of reversing out, although you have done a chunk of that, as it were, but it takes time, right?
it
You
does.
those hormonal adaptations, do you notice that it heightens your ADHD and how you can sort of flip from one thing to another, and how you can feel when you're in the depths and sort of coming out of a show?
So from experience with like, because my brother coaches me, so we've got a really close relationship, which is great because he gets to see me, one as his sister, but also two as his client. So he knows me more than I know myself a lot of the times. They've told me I'm better in prep
Oh, okay.
than off prep.
Yeah.
So when I am prepping, my focus is very like I'm very good. My mood is very stable. The last few weeks leading into it, obviously, like everyone is suffering, it kind of gets hard. But the majority, when I have too much freedom or too much non-control in an off season, say, then yeah, life can be a bit hard again because you're like, oh, I'll have a Lindt chocolate on a Saturday. And then before you know it, you're kind of almost tumbling into like picking at something every day. So like you have to, or for me, I really have to apply 365 days. It is prep. There's no off season, there's no on season. This is a lifestyle. Because if I go into the off season, my take advantage brain,
Yeah.
as a someone who's like able to get addicted to things quite easily, will try and find a way of bringing something in. So it's just better not to do it. or to or to pour the water on the bags of crisps that are left on a Saturday night or something. Because I know on a Sunday, if I wake up and it's there, I'm more than likely to just go, it's just a crisp. That's always going to be there. And if I sit here and say as a bodybuilder, I got my shit together, I'm completely in control, I'd be lying to you all, because it's a work in progress. Mental health, ADHD, the whole shebang of it is a work in progress. And it's still hard. It's still hard. This week's really tough, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Just for like emotions up, emotions down, you're tapering things out, your cardio's getting lower, your steps, body fat is going on in a really good way, but it's still going on. And then you're like, emotions of just, yesterday I was in the gym and all of a sudden a song come on and I'm bursting into tears. I haven't done that for a while.
Yeah, it's wild when that can
Yeah.
catch you at any point. And I feel like as well, as you said there, the tunnel vision that we all get in prep, that is the biggest part of like that reverse out and off season. There you can set goals, but it's different to a show day.
Yeah.
It is very different, and we can't take away from that. And it does take time to get into the off season, be able to accept, as you say, that fat gain. Although it's a steady rate, it's still a bit weird for quite some time
Yeah,
because
it
it's
is.
and you can I talk about this all the time, as you know, you can put it on a bit of paper, this is what we're going to do, but when you take a human into that equation, the reverse out, I don't care what you say, every single person I speak to is going to be slightly different. You cannot expect it to be robotic. And also, aside from the hormonal adaptations, etc., life happens, right?
And you just I feel for myself and I feel for everybody else that's just come out of stage and is heading into Christmas,
Yes.
because it's easier. I say easier, it's more manageable to prep, say through January, finish in the summer. You've got the summer, you're in shape, you want to stay in shape because the sun is out and everyone's like, yeah, going to the beach. You come off stage on the 2nd of November and the next thing you're thinking about is Christmas.
For sure.
You sometimes don't have time to process. And like I'm like walking through and there's this to eat and there's that to eat, and then you're prepping like, okay, so I've got family meals out. And if you don't kind of keep a handle on it like I didn't last year,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
oh, you can gain 30-40 pounds, right? And it's gained in a really bad way.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's not fun.
Yeah.
It isn't fun. Like I competed, the first time was 12 years ago. It took me 9 and a bit years to get back to stage.
I'd
Long
love
time,
to talk about that because
really long time.
I mean, that's feeding into also well, the intro, isn't it? Of like that
Mhm.
you've got high expectations of yourself and what you want to bring to stage. And I think from what you've said, you sort of would start the prep and then it's like, whoa, I'm not ready. And then it's like this,
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm
I
ready.
convinced myself I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Or I'd be in a relationship where instead of having a partner that would wholeheartedly support you, it would kind of get a little bit like monotonous for them. Or if one was a bodybuilder and the attention wasn't entirely on them, you've got that competitive streak, or you have a relationship where you're just with someone who's insecure. So it's better just to not be that and then just pick it up when it eventually tumbles, which it did, which was great for both of us because we're both much happier people now, and I've been able to put my own goal into competing, and two years later I've managed to do the Welsh, win it twice, get my pro card, and then stand on the British pro stage. Be it if the FitX pro cards, they're still pro cards in itself. Eventually the IFBB would be a way to go, but you've got to start somewhere. And I'm 37 tomorrow, so we're heading into that like masters category now. Not that I'm going to be in the masters classes for any time yet, but yeah, it takes a long time. People shouldn't just step on stage.
Yeah, it does. It
Like,
it's important as well to understand what you want from it, right? Like,
oh yeah,
do you want to just step on stage and maybe it's well, this is the thing, and it's difficult, yes, it can be a like tick box, I've stepped on stage, but depending on of course how far you take it and what level of condition you get to, it's not something that, as you say, you should just sort of dip in and out of. as it were. However, I understand if someone wants to scratch the itch, as it were, and they do that. But a lot of people will understand if it's the right choice for them because it requires so much from not only you, but everyone around you, as you've just outlined there.
Oh yeah, like if you haven't got solid foundations in your relationships going into a prep, there's a very good chance at the end of that prep you might not have that relationship. And it can be down to one, you being a bit of a dick, your partner definitely not understanding, or you just discover that actually, because when you go into prep, you do discover new things about yourself because you go to the depths. Your brain is starving, your body's starving, you're on the Stairmaster, you haven't got your headphones because you've forgotten them. So you go into this almost meditative state, and in pure gym, you go ding, 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 ding. Oh my God. And I'm a pops and whistles person, right? So like I'm very noise sensitive like that. So pure gym in the morning, it can be it can be a challenge if you haven't got
Oh,
these.
yeah.
But you end up sinking into these places, and you're like, you do almost go kind of, I don't know, my experience, almost spiritual in a way of like you detach yourself because we do choose to do it, and it is hard. People say always go into war. You're not fighting on the front line, but inside, yeah, you might be going to war with yourself. So I could never diss someone for saying that because they could have a real strong mental health battle going on, and that's what they're going to war every day is actually pulling themselves through. But when it comes to competing personally, I don't think you should be doing it if you've just been 6 months, 12 months, 2 years in, especially even if as a female, especially because we carry a lot on our lower halves, and like I don't want the opportunity for me to turn around and people to go, Jesus Christ, you shouldn't stand on stage. Do you know what I mean? So like, and there are times when this is happening, and like transformation shows, yeah, okay. But if you're stepping into bodybuilding, you wouldn't put an amateur in up against like Tim Murray or Venus Williams and all of those type of people. So there's a criteria, and if you're not ready, you shouldn't be stepping on stage. And coaches who allow their clients to, it's not good for a peer because they go in on cloud nine and they have a sharp shock. I've lost mates. Like I genuinely have lost friends over the last, I'd say, especially the last 2 years, 18 months, most definitely, because I'll say, why? You're not ready. You haven't been dieting for long enough. You've still got 4 or 5 stone on you. Or like seriously,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're like, yeah, but my coach said, or my husband said, and I'm like, yeah, but there's like looking good in underwear, and then there's actually standing under those lights on that stage, and there's nothing that can get hidden. Like,
Mm.
and I'm from an old school bodybuilding era as well with my dad, where it's like it is all or nothing. Same with my brother. If he's not 100%, he won't stand on that stage. It took him 10 years. We had injuries. He dieted. He wasn't that happy. It took him 10 years, and he did it on his 30th birthday because he was not ready,
Yeah,
you
I love
know?
that you said that. I actually, that you said you've lost friends. I've actually parted ways with a couple of clients. I've never spoken about this on the pod before, but very relevant when I've actually said, you need to do a growth phase first. And that's not,
Mm.
I'm not being a dickhead,
No.
if someone sits in front of me on a consult and says, I want to be competitive, I'm going to assess the physique, talk to them about what they've done previously to assess, if someone's not at stage condition, it's like, how do you know if they've got muscle? But of course, as a coach, you can sort of read into what's the background, what have you done previously, what do
Yeah.
you look like now? And then they've gone with another coach and they haven't done very well when we look at placings, and there's nothing wrong with that if you're okay with that. But if you're telling the coach, I want to be competitive, you do need to listen.
Yeah, you do. You do. And it's wild. I think it's mad that people will put people on stage and allow them to stand up there knowing that they're going to be so openly not publicly maybe criticized, but it will be spoken about. It is spoken about. People who are old school, and I mean not old school as in like, oh, bodybuilding's so bad now. I just mean as in like the food is basic.
Yeah.
Like the only thing that I have that's processed on my diet is my whey and my Cocoa Pops.
Cocoa Pops.
Yeah, Cocoa Pop games, everyone loves them, don't they? Right? And that's because that's what my brother tells me to eat. I know it works, and that's what I have. But everything else, chicken, pineapple, apples, salad, veg, it is literally one process. It's pulled from the ground, is put into your plate. Do you know what I mean? You don't want things that are like Pop-Tarts, Rice Krispies. What did I see someone eating? It was just like some of the most craziest off the wall. And I'm like, yeah, but what you like, you're going to diet down and you are going to look like shit
Mhm.
because you can't build really good quality foundations of muscle if you have a really bad diet. And I'm talking from experience because I tried it a number of times from the first time I ever competed through. And like my brother's like, oh, you've just never got lean enough. I'm like, no, I just haven't got abs. He's like, no, trust me, you just haven't done it. And then I saw him step on stage, my fire got relit, and I thought, oh, come on then. Let's go some, because my life was manic at that time anyway. So it's anchored me down. It's given me my relationship back with my brother that I've wanted for years, because we're just so close now. Like I used to be like, who was so emotional. This is the ADHD as well, right? They'd say you can't even look at her for crying.
Mm.
Do you know, or like the plastic container will fall out of the cupboard and I'd lose my mind. And it's just because it's, the thing after the thing after the thing. And because I've been able to work with him and he understands me sometimes better than I have, I'm able to actually like take a step back
Mm.
and not, because I can't act on a personal level because he's my coach. It's actually then allowed me to put that ability into life with other people and go, okay, this isn't a defensive thing. This is just because we're so used to being rejected on an ADHD level,
Yeah.
we're like, we don't think we're good enough, or we never feel that we're doing good enough. So then when we do invest everything into something and it goes tits up, it takes a lot, massive amount. And that's why it took me a lot to message you, or even Sarah, Michaela. Do you know what I mean? And we've all become so close. But yeah, it took me ages, because yeah, you kind of get stung or you get hurt, or you be a bit of a dick sometimes unintentionally, and people take it for a lot more. And then you get this fear. And like, this is why I've been fearful about the podcast as well. It's like, oh my God. But do you know what? Not everyone's going to like you, and that's fine.
Mhm.
And with ADHD, get used to people not liking you all the time, because we have minds that say things sometimes in ways that we don't mean it to come across as. But black is black and white is white. And if you tell me a spade is a bucket, I'll tell you it ain't. Do you know what I mean? So like,
Why are you lying?
yeah, and why are you lying? I can't be one of those people who minces my words. So yeah, I've lost friends.
Yeah.
Especially coming back into the bodybuilding remit. I had a big bucket of mates, and now I've got a new bucket of mates, which is great because they're actually proper friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, people change. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're someone who's honest about the industry and says, ugh,
Mm.
and then their stage pictures come through and they're sat at the table crying, and you go like,
Yeah.
don't want to be the dickhead on the table, but I did say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard, I think, as well, with how it is so hyped up. And I guess, as well, talking from the coaching standpoint, maybe the coach isn't comfortable with saying you're not ready, and they're sort of like, oh God.
But
And
then you shouldn't be a coach.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you know? Because like they're difficult conversations, and if you'd rather take 80 to 250 pounds a month off somebody who's like a little bit, just needs probably a stern conversation and just says, look, you can be competitive. Like my brother said to me, he said, okay, we're going to do it, but like it's going to take a year
Yeah. Yeah.
before you can be considered competitive again. So every single day for a solid year, and then another year later I'd come back, but now I'm going to take a year off season because I need to. If I want to progress, I can't keep 3 months growth, 7 months diet. It doesn't work, and it's a bitter pill to swallow. But no, you with this sport, I don't know, man, it's weird. It creates weirdos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely
Or
does.
draws them in. It's like, oh,
It's like
yeah.
it brings out your quirky side of you as well. But I don't know. I just, when you find people that get you, it feels okay again, because yeah, for a while it's been a bit shit. There's
Yeah.
been bits, when you just think, but yeah, you just scramble it back together. And as long as I keep doing the do, then everything else, like, literally just
Yeah. Yeah.
just stays in place. And for anybody who thinks they might have it, or like a little bit of something, and if they find themselves getting so overwhelmed very, very easily and suffering with this anxiety, like I've got it now with this heat, that especially as a woman, there's a very good chance you've probably got some form of ADHD or something going on that's been misdiagnosed as anxiety or depression, or just being over emotional. And it's not, there'll be something else going on, but it's like doing a bit of research, watching a few podcasts and having a few light bulb moments. You go, oh, it's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's me. Okay.
Mm.
And then life gets a bit easier.
Yeah,
But it's
but
until you admit it,
yes, acceptance of
until you admit it, yeah.
it's that, I guess it's the acceptance, but also sometimes having some processing time. If you're getting light bulb moments, say someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, could this be me? It's important as well to allow yourself maybe that processing time. And then I'd say almost the first step would be to tell your other half, or, your close friend or whoever it may be. Maybe they reach out to you off the back of the podcast. Just,
Welcome
yeah,
to anytime.
it's maybe having that like first step, and then that allows you to then maybe get a diagnosis or something. I know that Michaela, I'm sure she might mind me saying, she was looking at an ADHD diagnosis, but it was like £1.5 grand or something over in Ireland.
I think for the full testing, I think she said it was something like up to about 6,500 like
Honestly.
euros. So yeah, it's ridiculous over there. So like it depends. They'll do like one level of it, and then there's something else, and then there's something else, and by the end of it, it's like 6 grand to find out, which is just, it's ridiculous. Especially, oh yeah, it's robbery, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? People, they can let you know,
Mm.
and then it get easier. But it is hard if you like knowing but not knowing. Like Michaela struggles because it's strange. It's like having lists in your head, and the worst thing you can do is write a to-do list, because the to-do list just stays there.
I hate to do lists. I can't, they like make me really stressed.
They freak me out because
Yeah.
there's so much pressure for them, right? But you're always thinking there's so much to do, and you're always on the go. Like my steps on a daily when I was in prep was like, I think we got up to about 18,000. I had to physically sit down to
Hmm.
stop myself from doing 20, 30, because you don't stop. We're up hoovering, cleaning, walking, or just right. So I got windows here in front of me. I got spider designs all over them, where I've been with my markers writing all the hoodie designs and what's coming next and things, because it's just there then. But I'm just looking at it, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. What do I do
Right.
next?
What do I do next? Because that's my brain.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is like
And it's not linear thinking. No, it's just, yeah. So getting that cardio done first thing in the morning, which is probably the most uncomfortable thing I do on a daily basis, kind of makes the rest of the day easier. So if you can start off doing something you really, really, really don't want to do, like, yeah, the day's easier.
cardio.
My dad, my
Cardio is
dad,
not
my
a
dad does. My dad does cold showers, right? Oh, every morning. I mean, like, there's no heating on. So, like, the boiler's off. It's been off overnight. And you're like, you can see the steam against the cold of the shower. And he's in there, boy, every single day, 3 minutes, just like doing his thing. No, it makes me too angry. I haven't got the cold water down thing yet. I
No, I
can
can't.
dip. I can dip in a pod, but a cold shower? Nah, no. So cardio is my go-to. That's Stairmaster.
I guess as well, it's like I always find with cardio anyway, aside from ADHD, it's like that gives you that. Well, you spoke about it earlier in prep, but anytime you do cardio, you're like separating yourself from other. I think if you've got a busy mind anyway, like if you're at home, like you say, you could be doing that, or just do the washing machine, or just like COVID was a nightmare for me because I'd be like, put the dishwasher on, do some press ups, then and it would be like all over the place. But it is like that. that first opportunity, like a walk in the morning, it's like you can process sort of maybe the day before or whatever. If you're
Yeah.
not writing a list, it's like almost journaling in your own mind, isn't it? It's just then
Yeah.
if that doesn't, I guess for you with the ADHD, it's like if that doesn't give you enough time to sort of process things and it may continue through the rest of your day and then lead to feeling like I'm always busy, I don't know what to
You
do.
feel like you're chasing your tail sometimes. So I get really stressed if things change in the day.
Yeah,
So like you won't physically see me stressed,
yeah.
but say I'm expecting Will to come home at like 3 o'clock and he walks in the door at 2:30 because it's half an hour earlier and I haven't got two tasks done in that time. I'm like, huh, why are you home? Do you know what I mean? Instead of being like, oh my God, hi babe, because the ADHD knows I got this till 3 o'clock, and if he's in earlier,
Yeah.
it's nothing to do with him. It's just the way my brain works. You know, I kind of know I've got until a certain time to do things, and if running late or things change, or yeah, it can be like I'm super laid back, but I'm also like a super stress head at the same time. It's a weird combination. Things
I
I
think
should probably care about, I don't, and things that I don't care about, I probably care too much about. In fairness,
yeah,
like
that's
in yeah,
bodybuilding as well. That's
yeah.
the difficult part, isn't it? Because it's like
Mhm.
there can be something that can really throw you off. Did you find in this last prep that you had any periods of time where you really went into sort of a darker place due to the ADHD and maybe being triggered by anything?
I couldn't let anyone cook my food for ages. And the
Mm,
chicken had to be cut in a certain way and it had to be in the timer for a certain time. And the lid, like I cook it in the pressure cooker. So it's always 44 minutes. I know exactly how much seasoning goes in. And the pressure lid's got to be off so all the steam escapes. So the chicken's quite dry. And like, otherwise, it's like, oh, the texture is just awful. And through prep, it'd come out a number of times like that. And I would just stand there and I'd just pour it in the bin. And I'd go to the shop and I'd go and rebuy the chicken because you get into such a prep place that if something's not right, it can wreck your full day. And I will not force myself to eat wet chicken or say the broccoli or just whatever it is, if it's off or it's not right, just because of the way I am, I can't do it because they won't just affect one meal. It could push me off for a week
yeah, for sure.
because it can be a massive trigger. So, like, and the emotion attached to when things go wrong, it can be a catalyst to like them wanting to go and get food or wanting to soothe yourself with something that you shouldn't be. So I got to a point where I was like, no, I will do it.
Yeah.
Just to save my own head. So yeah, that kind of thing. And you just become very quiet and you just question whether anybody likes you a bit because you always feel that you're being grumpy and moody. But I think if you find that you're questioning if you're affecting other people, then you're still present. Is
Yeah.
if you're not questioning or if you're questioning you don't care, that's when you kind of need to take a step back and be like, hang on, bodybuilding's awesome, competing is amazing, but if you don't care about your relationships that are there at the beginning or like your foundations with people, then it really isn't kind of worth it, especially the competitive aspect. Like
Mm.
only compete if you're really willing to take yourself to the darkest depths of hunger, thirst, questioning whether you want to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because it does. It comes to a point you're like, why the heck am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then you remember it's because nobody else can.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's
You know
a
what I mean? Not that nobody else can, but there's a small percentage of you that can. And if I can get my handle on my brain
Mhm.
that tells me pretty some that's just some dark things sometimes. If I can shut that off, then yeah, I can do anything.
Yeah, it is as well. I guess with the finding your people and that being associated as well. Do you find that like if you found someone and you're really close that you can go all in, but something could easily detract away from that, or do you like the logical mind with friendships and stuff? How's that?
So I used to be very much like with my friendships with you and the people that I've mentioned, I'm 100% invested. 100% invested, but I'm also not at the point that if you don't respond for a couple of days, I don't sit there and I'm like, oh my God, something's gone wrong, right? I'm not at that, I'm not in that. They're what I would call like healthy friendships. They're friendships that are like low maintenance, that you're there when you need each other, but you're not actually like thriving off replying to each other. And I've been in friendships like that. And I've had a few wakening ups and I've gone, do you know what? This isn't healthy. This can't be healthy for me or that person. And like having that, no. When there's red flags, now I take a massive step back rather than actually like ignoring
Yeah.
things. Do you know what I mean? Because with ADHD or with whatever mental health problem I've probably got on top of this as well, you kind of want to fix people, or you end up picking up waifs and strays that are a little bit dodgy. Not dodgy as in like they're dodgy as in they might steal from you, but there might be a little bit something going on that's a little bit more woo-woo than yourself. You know, and I've had it a couple of times over the years where people and my friends have said like, just be careful maybe. Do you know what I mean? And I've learned my lesson. Oh yeah, I've learned my lesson, which is why I was very cautious, really cautious about reaching out to you, reaching out to Sarah, and also Michaela as well, because like I know what the bodybuilding industry and females can be like, and 1 minute they're your friends and the next minute they ain't.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, okay. Just because I said one or two things or I made a decision you weren't happy with, okay, that's a you problem, but the catalyst events after that actually like massively causes issues. So I'm at a point now where I just don't care.
I think,
And
yeah.
I've got that circle of friends, and the fact that you're online and there's like that bond, but we're not having to go and meet for coffee every day or every week. Do you know what I mean? I think it's a much more, it makes for a much more authentic relationship and
Yeah.
friendship.
Yeah, healthy as well, isn't it? It's like, you know,
Yeah.
there is certainly that respect. And I actually said to Wendy about this at the meetup the other day. I was like, I know you're incredibly busy, and sometimes it might be like a week between messages, but we haven't forgotten about each other. Nothing's wrong. We just appreciate
Yeah.
there's stuff going on. And it's really refreshing to have that in friendships because this like constant almost drain. It's very difficult to then be able to be your authentic self, because if you're
Mhm.
worrying, like, oh God, are they going to message back? Should I message? And it becomes this sort of like toxic environment, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's just not nice. It just isn't, and I think there can be a lot of that in bodybuilding. I think a lot of people can become very like addicted to each other and become like crutches almost, because like I don't know, it's like trauma bonding through bodybuilding or something. And you know, like, yeah, you've got your friends and you should have your friends. And like the majority of my solid friendships are from a long time ago.
Mm, mm.
When I look at my friends who turn up, they are friends that like I might speak to once a year sometimes, or once every 6 months. But if like shit hits the fan, I'm there. Like it doesn't matter, and it's the same. It's the same with you guys. It could be a week, it could be 2 days, it could be a couple of hours, it could be longer. But like if shit hits the fan, or you needed something, or vice versa, I know like if that phone rings or if there's a message, then I know it's legit. It's not like an agenda. It's like when you asked me to do the podcast, the first thing for me was like, whoa, hang on, we're friends.
Yeah, I know.
Like
I really
with
appreciate that as
with
well.
mates, and like I never want to be seen to use you as a platform, because you're not. First and foremost, you are my friend.
Mm.
And that's really important for people to understand. It's like if you do find friends in this industry and they are friends, hold on to them and be real with it, and
Mhm.
actually like be true. Don't be a yes person and pretend to be something that you're not, because it comes out.
Yeah, it does. It does. There's
It
nothing worse
does.
than when I've had it in previous friendships in bodybuilding, and very much in bodybuilding, where it was like, wow, these people are my home, these people are my friends, and they just shat all over me, and
Yeah.
it is savage.
It
Uh,
is. But you get people like that. The thing is you can have friends and then you not compete for a long time and they compete. And then the minute you go, George, you know what? I actually make a crack of this again, they like shit on you.
yeah.
Or there's rumors going around. And I'm like, what the man? Seriously? And then they're like gone.
Mm,
At
mm.
the first crack in an armor, they're gone. And you just laugh because like you shouldn't be friends on the basis that someone else is never going to compete again.
Mm.
Like if I'm that much of a threat that you can't be friends with me because I'm competing again, then that sounds like a you problem.
It's such a shame in the
Yeah.
but I think it was probably maybe because you've been brought up with it slightly different, but it was quite a shock to me how it could be such a ruthless side of you know, you think it's everyone's doing their best to be their best, and I came into it very naive, and I
Hmm.
do that now, like, and I think I've had to basically grow a pair of what do we say, pair of balls. Um,
Rules.
yeah, to actually go like, you know, I've got to be careful and protect what my mission is. And it's a shame. I think that's what I find it is. I feel quite sad that there are people that have got agendas and things. I don't know about you, but I don't have time to make a fucking agenda. Like, you know, it's like you
No.
can only be you. And I think that we'd be naive to think that everyone is like that. And that's then hard to find, especially for your ADHD and that rejection side of things, how can you really know if people are your people? But I feel like you learning yourself and being true to yourself has certainly been a big change this year, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I've definitely set more boundaries now than I've ever set because I was never a boundary setter. Do you know
Like,
what I mean? It was like, oh, okay, oh, okay. And then before you know it, it's like this, you're trying to balance so many different plates and like there's literally no time for yourself. So now I have got boundaries. And if someone gives me like a feeling in there on first instinct, that's where I leave you. I don't. Yeah, all my life I've had that kind of like feeling, and I've gone, oh, probably wrong. And then I've always been the one who shook myself in the foot because I should listen. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, to anybody who's like, because with ADHD you get heightened. So I
mhm.
can walk into a room and I know if someone's been talking about me, or I know if there's a group that's been like, it's positive or it's bad, or if something over in the corner's happened, or I could walk in a room and I can tell you all how you're feeling. It's not a nice, it's not something that's nice to be continuously feeling. So it is pretty, you can pick up on things really, really easily as someone with it. And yeah, it's just accepting that a lot of people just won't get it.
That's wild, isn't it?
They
This is
just won't
what I
get
say,
it.
it's a superpower
It
because it's
is.
like
It is.
you know, it's and as you described earlier, sort of peeling of the onion. I mean, I personally look for that in people, whether that's through ADHD or as a person, the stories unraveling and what we've sort of been through. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go through trauma or have a mental health diagnosis. It's far from it,
Mhm.
but it lends itself to sort of I don't know, there's substance to a friendship, isn't there? And you come
Yeah.
together through, even though it's different trauma or different struggles, you find those commonalities, don't you?
Mhm. Yeah. People with substance is what you want. Do you know what I mean? Like people that can have conversations that are outside of the bodybuilding remit, that you can actually talk about stuff that is going on. No, I'm not talking like politics, but things that are
Oh,
on a deep things that are on a deeper level with Steph, where if all someone can talk about is literally the gym and the Hollyoaks and EastEnders, you're not going to be my kind of person. Like you just won't. I'm not going to mesh with you. I do need people of substance that is not just this deep, but is like because that is what life is about, and that's what makes life exciting and experiences and perspective and just understanding that there might be one story but there's 10 sides to it, and you've always got to listen because if you just listen to your own you're never going to get far in life, and you won't. But yeah, just listen to that gut instinct, and that's with anything. Just with anything, if it tells you no or if it tells you yes, just do it. Take a risk. Do it.
mm. Do you feel that you've become more in tune to that from being hurt so much, and you sort of what was was it meeting Will, or what was the big sort of shift there for you where it was like I've got to reassess where I'm going, if you know what I mean?
I think it was, yeah, it was just before meeting Will. I think I was kind of falling back into the like the friendship crowd and the people that I broke away from before, and I had lessons from before, and then I thought, it's make or break. Do you know what I mean? I either make this breakaway now, or I'm probably not going to get to the stage. This life is going to be like absolutely crazy again. So yeah, that's what it was. That's definitely what it was. It was like kind of I was like 6 or 7 weeks into dieting, I think, at that point. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
talking like April time, because I started a long way out because I did quite a bit of damage traveling around Scotland and eating lint and drinking protein shakes last year, not dieting, thinking everything was fine. I had a fun time, but at the same time, the event afterwards. But yeah, I'd known Will for a really long time. And then yeah, the gym, I took on the gym with the family. That kind of went on his head a little bit, and I just thought, no, it's got to be now. It's just it is that kind of like make those changes, cut off the dead wood, do what you need to do in order to get yourself better, or you're just going to stay in the same place. And it's like Flex said, didn't he, about the boy with the drain, getting your foot stuck there. And if you keep getting your foot stuck and you refuse to do anything about it, you're the one who's going to eventually drown. Now, I'm not willing to do that for any longer. 36, 37, almost. Nah. Life's like you do get one life that you're aware of. Like,
I love that. I let you
you
aware.
know, yeah, no, if it might hurt, but like, yeah, you in order to grow and in order to make proper changes and to get a level head on your own ADHD and understand things, you've got to change your environment and your crowd.
Mm,
Because if people don't understand you, you're never going to understand yourself. And you've got to take yourself away sometimes in order to really digest who you are, what you are, and how your brain works. Because I'm still learning. I
yeah.
fry myself most days, to be honest.
I mean, it wasn't till later in life that you actually got diagnosed. And I remember you said to me
Yeah.
about it finally felt like, okay, this makes sense because everyone's always acted like there's something wrong with me. And that,
Yeah.
that's quite, when we actually look at that and you feeling that way, I mean, it's heartbreaking for me in the sense of not feeling sorry for you in that way, but it's like your whole life you felt like someone different.
Something like there was always kind of something like just a bit of a miss. And I was like, really kind of defensive. I had this kind of injustice thing that if I was told I was wrong and I really wasn't wrong, like I would not let it go. Do you know what I mean? I would not let it go because I was like, no, this this isn't right. It's kind of, and this the same in school. I was like certain subjects, it would spark my mind off, like RE, for example. I would ask questions far beyond what a 13, 14-year-old girl should be asking in class. And until the end that I was actually removed from RE because I was spiking too much curiosity into the other sides of religion, you know? So
Yeah.
there's been like, and like in art, moved up in comprehensive school by 2 or 3 years in my art class because I was excelling in different areas. So like, if you captivate it, it's really good. But if people don't get it, no, school can be hard. School can be hard, friendships can be hard,
Mm,
relationships with your own family members can be really difficult. Like me and my brother, my God, we used to be at each other's throat because I could never take him for what he was saying. I always thought he was having a go at me.
okay.
But it's not. I was down to my ADHD and continuously being in the amygdala of the fight or flight.
Mm,
When you tend to fall into relationships that repeat that kind of thing, then as well. Yeah. But 2020, 2020 was not a good year. That was probably the worst year that I'd had in years. Like, and it was, yeah, I almost didn't make it. Be honest. Oh my God.
mm, mm.
Mm. So my own stupidity and just not being able to cope. Ugh. And mm,
Yeah.
yeah, and then this year, I don't know, something just clicked. Something just clicked, and I was like, no, I can't, not anymore. So like, oh, sorry.
No,
Just if anyone is struggling or just like doesn't don't they just don't understand with like bits of their brain and stuff, like it's okay to feel like that. And going down a finality route, oh, it's not okay. Because there's always people that can help and there's always people that can explain sometimes better than you can yourself.
mm, mm,
Yeah, and like anyone questioning, just train, just get to the gym,
I,
just find an outlet and an avenue, because like when it goes, it goes, and it's not nice, you know. So getting into that, you can never be too good at training. You can get bored as someone with ADHD very quickly because you can get good at things very quickly. And you're always chasing weight, you're always chasing numbers, you're always chasing how hard you can diet or like the better condition you can get in. So there's always a level that you can be reaching. So yeah, for like, especially when me and my brother especially, he uses bodybuilding with his regiment as well, because we're very similar in some ways. Um, but yeah, you just do it.
Mm,
Give yourself that outlet, that drive, because otherwise your mind will drive you insane because you'll keep questioning, what's wrong? Why do I stop? Why does it not stop? Why
mm.
haven't I done this today? Why am I not good at this? Or like, what can I do to be better? When in actual fact, there's fuck all wrong with you and you're probably doing really, really well. It's just this.
Yeah, and I guess as well that when we feed that into the competitive nature of bodybuilding, if you don't get, the placing that you feel you have done everything for, I mean, aside from ADHD, again, it's like that's fucking hard as well. But then
Mhm.
hearing more of how your brain works, it's like if you weren't getting that top placing or, what you perceived as good enough or however we want to frame that, I guess as well,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, the actual that tying into what that would feel like in an ADHD brain also.
Oh, well, I'll be honest, the finals I didn't feel that I brought my absolute best package. Like it was better than last year, and it was better because obviously it just was. But like for my showing, for how I move, just my posing, something was just not quite right that day. So like my placing was second, which was absolutely right. There's no like, let's go back to the drawing board and see if I lost point. No, I came second and my placing was absolutely bang on to Tony. Tony was incredible on that day. She's awesome. So there's no complaint in my placing at all. It was just for me, there was things, the expo was so loud.
Yes, so
So
that,
loud. Like
yeah.
anybody who's got noise sensitivities or autism or anything like that, it was not. It was just so loud. You had wrestling, you had cage fighting, you had like
Ooh.
powerlifting, you had crossfitting, and then you had the bodybuilding stage just like in the corner by the restaurant,
Okay, this
which
is
was
how, yeah.
which is just mad. You had a tiny little backstage area as well, and then it was open. So you had people on one side and people on the other, and they could all see you kind of like trying to get ready. And yeah, I had an anxiety dump and an adrenaline dump just before going on stage. And I'm like bone dry, I don't sweat, nothing. And it just started, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh. So yeah, I got off stage and it was good because it was second, it was better than last year. We ticked all the boxes, but for me, for the polished version of myself, no. And it took me a good like 2 weeks to come to terms with that post stage, post coming off
Mm.
of like actually going, nah, you did okay. Do you know what I mean? Actually acknowledge what you've achieved rather than being like the perfectionist in me, just like my boob almost fell, or not almost, but like the bikini moved on the one side so you could see more side boob on the other. And then because of that happened in the rounds in my routine, then I was convinced it'd fallen out, so I like moved my top and there was nothing wrong. So it was, do you know what I mean? It was the
Uh,
first time that I'd ever felt slightly off, and
mm.
it was awful.
Yeah, yeah.
It would like, yeah, it was weird. It was one of the most like, oh, and I would never like, I will compete with FitX and I'll compete with, because I've got my pro card and they've been tremendous. But the expo wise, personally, I would never be able to compete at an expo like that again. I just couldn't. Too much sound. It was just like,
Mm.
yeah, a lot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
as well when it's busy at an expo. I know what you mean from doing one myself. Like it's funny because I can when I'm hearing noise and there's people around and stuff. Matt's like, you're weird because I can almost like recharge my battery from that, whereas his battery will very, very
Yeah.
quickly go.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and I really liked that environment, but for sure with the ADHD side of things, I can see how that noise sensitivity and even just the interaction. Obviously, if your brain's quite busy anyway, it's like,
Yeah, it was
oh,
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was crazy. It was crazy. It was so bright and it was so loud. And like we were lying down on the floor with our headphones in, trying to just get in the zone. But everything was so like so many vibrations and so much screaming going on. Oh yeah, it was just yeah. So it come to that end of the day, and a few people had hugged me as we were putting my glaze on because I was like, yeah. So there was a bit of like, oh my God, kind of going on. Yeah. So for someone, I don't know, for someone who doesn't suffer getting off and just having that, it could just be a day of thing. It could be a couple of weeks too, but you relive it and you go over and you go over. And it's part of the reason why I haven't really posted that much of my routine and my photos from the finals as well, just because I'm not that happy with how I looked and I'm not ashamed to say it.
No, I
Do
think
you know
there's
what I
nothing
mean? I
wrong with
loved
that.
how I was at the Welsh. I nailed the Welsh, my confidence, the routine, everything. But yeah, ADHD and anxiety owned my ass at the finals.
Yeah.
It had me for sure. It really did knock me. And I won't allow it to happen again. But yeah, I won't allow it to happen again. But it was a long old day, and you relive it and you sit back and then you go over pictures and you're like, but it was just the polish. I'm known for being really good with my routine work. And yeah, my back shot, I said to you, leading up to it as well. Yeah, there was something going on, and I've still got a little something going on now that just kind of stops me from being able to pop it at the minute. But we work,
Yeah.
and you're always looking for ways for perfection with ADHD. So there's always something to be working on. I'll be like this in my 60s and my 70s. I will, 100%. You'll never stop. You'll never find me not training. No way. Not
Mm.
just for this, but for what it does for your like skeletal muscle, for females and our hormonal health as well. Females don't realize that we need to weight train from 40 onwards, whether you've got a choice or not. We should, because if we don't, by the time we're 60 or mid 60s, pain, bone, cripple, it's not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. It's important. It's certainly, it's something that again it gets overlooked in the when it's like competitive bodybuilding. Oh, that's
Yeah.
not healthy, that's extreme, etc., etc. Yeah, okay, it is, and as we've said, it's a choice. But also what you can get from a personal evolution standpoint. I always think, no matter what injuries, etc., I've got going on, I'm sure you're going to agree. It's like I wouldn't be the person I am without bodybuilding because I wouldn't have
Mhm.
pushed myself to those extremes. And I haven't done sport and things like that. So for me, it's like, what else would I do if I didn't have
Mhm.
bodybuilding? Because even in the off season, right, like this is where you're heading now, there's still so much exploration because you're still training hard, you're still doing your nutrition. All of these things, they don't stop. And
No.
it's important to give relevance on that also, that it's like, you're doing the do every day, and that's in itself a gift.
Yeah, it is. And like cardio never stops. Cardio stays in all year round. And I think for women especially, we should keep cardio in
Yeah.
because it stops that. It keeps us healthy, it helps with our hormones, but it stops the fat going on in a certain way. Even though we're in a surplus, we don't have to be in a surplus to a point that we're walking around with like the hot dog legs. You haven't really got a bump.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just kind of
yes, I
goes.
know what
You
you,
know
yeah,
what I mean? And for me, like that, I was brinkering on that last year because I didn't handle it. And I like what was it? It was October. I was home for 10 days. I went to Scotland for 10 days. I didn't train. I lived on lint and protein shakes. Sorry, Tyrus, but that was pretty much it because I was like healing.
yeah,
I should have
yeah,
stayed home and trained. And then
yeah,
I was home for a week and then I went to Barcelona for 10 days for my birthday last year. So it was great. I did loads of exploring and everything. But in hindsight, what I should have done was stayed home for 4 weeks, still reversed out really, really well, made sure the cardio was there, doing the steps, doing the training to the extent that you can. Because you've got to remember, you're dehydrating yourself. You could be playing around with some like extras that dry you out, shrink you down, dry all your joints and your cartilage out. So if you try and go into the gym a week after competing and try and smash all your weight, you're really going to hurt yourself.
yes.
You
This,
might feel strong, you might feel like you can kill it, but trust me, you can't. You can't. I had the flu for a week after the finals. It floored me. And then last week, from the Monday night through, or was it? No, I
It
can't
was,
remember. It was the
I think,
Wednesday through to the Friday,
yeah,
wasn't it? Last week.
yeah.
Then I was just wiped out with some kind of like gastro sickness bug, and I didn't eat for 36 hours, and I didn't leave the flat for 48. Now that is not me.
No, we like
Like,
food.
we love food, you know. So it's been a tough 5 weeks in a sense of like managing illness, and just remembering that whilst I feel strong, I'm not that strong still. Weight is progressively going up, but not going in and trying to be like, yeah, because you'll hurt yourself. It takes a long time, a good couple of months to come out properly, that everything feels, because if I pick up the kettle now, or if I pick up the protein and I try and put this arm and scoop out this, oh, the pain just from a protein scoop at the moment, because do you know what I mean, during training, or I've probably slept on it just from being silly lean for a long time and recovering. But it takes time, and it's every day.
It's
Like, if you're
like,
going to do bodybuilding, you've got to do it every day. It's not 6 months of the year and then you go and eat cake and take drugs and drink and party and then get back on it for 6 months. Not everyone's Kevin Larone, because like he did 6 months, didn't he? And then he'd go and tour with his band, and then he'd do another 6 months, right? He's a genetic freak. That's someone that could do it, right? He could have been a lot better, and he was in the end when he did the full years worth of it, right? But we're not like that. This lifestyle is a full-time thing, and like we make it to fundamentally be better. Like, to be a bodybuilder, you don't have to stand on stage. Like, people get it in their heads that you have to be a competitor. You don't.
yeah.
You really don't. And like, if you're not prepared to spend thousands of pounds on competing, potentially steroids, bikinis, tan, coaching all year round, then don't do it. If you're doing it for Instagram and you're doing it for the likes or the fashion movement, because that's what a lot of the categories are at the moment. There's a fashion wave, and that's not me saying that the categories don't belong, because they do. They've grown over the years. When they came out 12 years ago, I first competed as a bikini athlete. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I was in the Stars of Tomorrow with the UK BFF back in like November the 9th, it was 2012, I think. And I did a 20-week diet with Showgirls Fitness. Now, if you remember Showgirls, asparagus, chicken, and peanut butter, basically, for 20 weeks. It was fucking awful. But I did it because I was told I would never get to the stage because I like junk food too much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was already into training, sort of, because I got to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, you are fat. Let's sort it out. You're 23. You look like you've had 4 or 5 kids from the back. You really got to sort your stuff out, because I worked in pubs and clubs, and I didn't really think about the consequences then. And the more my dad and the gym told me I should be doing it, the more I wanted to rebel. I needed the wake up call myself. Do you know what I mean? And I had that, and I did it. I was training for a little while, and then that comment was made to me, and I was like, oh, really? Watch it. And I did it in 20 weeks, and it was I should never have competed when I did, because I was not ready. I hadn't been training long enough for what I would say long enough to be on stage. I was told I was too muscular on the leg to be bikini anyway, which was great, but there was nothing. I'll send you some before and after pictures, right? You will laugh your head off. You'd look at me now and go like, you definitely ate yourself twice. Like, I was super small. And then 10 years. 10 years, because it takes time. And if I stuck at it solidly for 10 years and not let my brain convince myself that the gym was the problem and I should be out eating pizza and God knows what, I could have probably, I could probably say I could have been potentially on the Olympia stage or with the pro card, because 10 years, do you know what I mean? It's a lot of time. And I've seen what people have done in that time. And I just go, you dickhead. you know, but at the same time I wouldn't be where I am now. And at 37 I got a better body now than I did at 27 and 25 and 35 and 32. And that's the aim of the game, isn't it, really, to be just to keep getting better,
Mm.
not hit 20 or 30 and go, oh, remember my 20s when my body was in the best shape of its life.
Yes.
No,
Yeah. No.
no, it's not that.
I think as well, a relevant point, like you're touching on there with time in the sport, you're able to get more muscle, and then when you get conditioned, that looks different. And I think there's sometimes maybe it's quite hard for people to understand that from the outside, that actually
Mhm.
the better muscle you have, then when you bring condition, it looks different on a body that has less muscle. But that we're looking at years and years and years.
Oh, definitely.
Sometimes quite hard to
Yeah,
process, like, the
yeah.
conversation I said earlier about talking to people about, if you're telling me, I want to win, and I say let's do an off season first, that's not being detrimental, that's just trying to highlight that we do need to have more muscle there, and that's
Mhm.
sometimes what's missing there as well with the education standpoint to this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like I got a muscle density and condition to me that I get when I compete now. That's because I've been doing and training on and off for 15 years overall. Do you know what I mean? If not, probably longer, because the gym that we had was in the gym for 25, it was in the family for 25 years and it's literally only just shut. Do you know what I mean? So I've seen it from the age of 13. So I've been brought up with men. Like I'm not a woman's woman, which is like you get two kind of women, or yeah, you get women who's been brought up with men and women who's been brought up with women. And like I'm the kind of more of a realist sort of. I'm a bit of a bloke in the way that I say things. Say, do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, there it is. Where because that's how I've been brought up
Yeah.
in surrounded by big guys, you know. And yeah, the condition comes from time and effort and consistency. And you could have someone stand on stage that's been training for 2 years and diets down and then diets next to me, and I'll be way more harder and grainier because I've got 15 years worth of muscle, not two.
Mm, yeah.
You know, and that's what I think, was it Meg said, Cuba's wife, that when she went abroad, she realized she saw the depths of density on these women that's been competing for even longer than she has, you know, and she's like incredibly dense and grainy and just fucking insane. I think she's incredible as well. And the same with Sarah. But
Yeah.
then you go out and you see these women that have been doing it for 10 years longer than they have. So they've got 20 years worth of grainy muscle on them and they're only 40 or they're only 37. And like, I could never stand down next to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd look like a child in my condition compared, but people don't, you know. And the men who come back year after year, like Neil Andrews, one of our Welsh guys. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's just won his PCA Pro and he won one of the PCA awards. I've known him for donkey's years, right? He competed in the UK BFF in Grant Cole's old show when Mike and Lisa was doing it years ago. And if you look at him then, you look at him now, he was still grainy now, and he's known as Granite because he's been doing it for so long, you know. But if he stands on stage next to someone who's been doing it for 2 years, he's gonna make them look soft. And
Mm,
they can be in wicked condition, but you're not gonna get that.
yeah. Yeah. It's
You're
very.
just not.
I think as well, it's like sometimes it's testing the waters depending on what, because obviously you've got so many different classes as well. It's like, okay, so
Mhm.
let's see if you've got some training experience there, you've done some off seasons, maybe you can be before. Let's see what you look like on stage in the chosen federation with the other athletes. Let's look at where you stand. And then like your example there, if it's like, shit, I still need another X amount of years because I'm not quite there, that's absolutely okay because that's a good opportunity there. But I think the hard bit comes when you're like, oh, I wanted to win that. I wanted to, and that's the tricky bit, isn't it? Because it's like
Yeah,
another 2 years
yeah.
growing. I can't see past that, it's very
Yeah,
hard.
it is. You've either, I think, dipping your foot on the stage and seeing where you are, like I've done the past 2 years running, is great. I've done really, really well for what I've done. But I know if I want to be a real contender stepping into like two bros,
Yeah.
like I've got a lot more work to do. Do you know what I mean? And it's because different federations require different things as well. And all figure girls or all wellness girls look slightly different. Now, UK BFF was the IFBB years and years ago. Do you know what I mean? So like it was the creme de la creme, and still in my eyes, I won't step on that stage there until I feel okay, I could stand up next to some of these girls that are in the amateur, like, remit. But right now, yeah, I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, my back needs so much work. Oh my
It
God.
is exciting.
It's like,
Yeah,
it fills me with excitement, but you're like, wow, okay, back to the drawing board, straight there, doing circles round yourself. Do you know what I mean? And not in a negative way, because I like how I look. I'm not going to say, oh, off season's hard, I feel fat, because I'm quite happy with how I look, especially at the moment, being 4 or 5 weeks out, as being successful so far. But we will have a picture of ourselves, and we will take the head off. And it's the same with if I've got mates on stage, take our heads off and assess the bodies. Don't get offended if like I got better legs or you got a better back. Like this isn't about who you are. This is literally about our body. This is bodybuilding. This is not personal. It is literally as it is. And if you're not thick skin enough or strong enough in your own being to understand that it's not this, it's this, but it's purely because it's a show.
it's going to be
Yeah,
very hard.
it's going to be a really difficult, hard process.
Mm.
It is. I get excited. I was like, right, okay, I'm not happy, but I get to do this, 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 and this. And like, I'm going to have my boobs out next year and taken down a lot smaller and from under the muscle because they bring my shoulders forward.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
Right, they're a bit big for my liking for what he went bigger than what I asked, which was fine, but like at the same time they cause these little problems. So like if females do have bigger implants under the muscle and they're finding like they're coming forward or posing, it's just you're getting like this kind of curve. It's the end of the muscle implant that's causing it, so I want them out
So you can fine tune as
so I
well.
can fine tune, but just because they're too big as well, like to be fair, I competed in November, and then in the February I was lying in the hospital bed having a boob implant, thinking that boobs would make me feel better because So it's again when you're
Mm.
out of
Mm.
prep, don't make crazy decisions thinking that something's going to make you feel better because it might not.
Mm.
They've served their purpose. They've been fine. But
I
like
know, you're like,
they've been
I need to.
fine.
There's a new era coming. I think it's.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just there's a time and a place, and just I feel, yeah, they just need for what I want to achieve, and just my body and stuff and backache and things, yeah, like
It is that continuous as well, that evolution of sculpting what, and this is the thing with competitive bodybuilding, when you are setting yourselves high, it's like you are constantly sculpting yourself for a category.
yeah,
Again, that's quite hard to sometimes get your head around, and there is also as well, and I'm sure you're gonna relate to me here when I say this, it's like that when we look at the off season and getting excited for it, like you've spoken about, there's a huge difference between applying yourself to an off season and thinking, oh yeah, I'm training quite hard, yeah. Whereas it's like if you're really motivated and that off season is structured and you've got to get to work, it can be a phenomenal difference to what you can achieve in that off season compared to if it's like, fucking hell, I've got to do this thing. We want to try and get that excitement there. I know it's not always easy, and anyone listening that's going through that like battle of body image, etc., it is difficult, but it is bodybuilding, isn't it? And that's not always
yeah.
easy to sort of take on board. It's not prep, it's not just prep, is it? It's the two.
It's you're preparing for the next time you're on stage, so like you're always prepping for the next part, and like people say they train hard. Like I've been like genuinely, I've been brought up with my brother, my father, two of the strongest, probably the strongest men I have ever come across in my life. I've seen them move weight with such ease that it just blows my mind. Like my brother has squatted 4 plates aside, his nose is bled, burst, and he still carried on doing it. This kid come out like having arm surgery and was squatting the next day because he was just crazy at that time. Do you know what I mean? So like you just have to like apply yourself 100% for it
Mm, mm,
with it all.
mm, mm.
You just have to, and you have to train. You have to train and get into failure. Are you though?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, are you really like go back and have a look at some of the videos of the old school training, the old way of how they used to train? I'm not saying rag their weights around like they do, but take something from that and then go and actually have a look at how people are actually training today. Not many people train with that level of intensity, that mind to muscle connection, because again, there's too many tripods out. There's too many like, oh, how many likes am I going to get for this video? You won't find me with my tripod out very often in the gym. And if it is, I've normally got a photographer that I've paid for. Do you know what I mean? To get a shoot. Like I go in, people are quite scared of me in the gym. And then they talk to me and they're like, oh, you're actually really nice. I'm like, yeah, but when I train, game faces on and I give it absolutely everything. I got an hour and a half, maybe two a push sometimes. Like you have to train because thinking the food and thinking like whatever additionals and anything else that you can put in yourself is going to do the job. It won't. It'll help, but it's not going to do it. Like actually properly train and like don't worry about fashion then. Put some like proper clothes on and t-shirts and like cover your bum and your tits and stuff and just train. Like seriously, please, like take the modesty back and actually take it back to what it was. Because we're training to look good, but we're training to look good like in the street or on the beach or like in the bedroom, not to make other people not want to look anyway than other way they're training. And that's where I feel is people are more concerned about fashion than actually like honing in. Yeah. So if you do see me train and I do look like I'm a mean, moody little shit in the corner of the gym, I'm not. It's just because I'm applying myself properly, like doing it like we should do, you
Mm.
know?
And
Like I would see Romana and Sarah and you in that train. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's proper, it's intensity. There's no like I'm a woman. Like, no, you are literally in there smashing it because that's how you're going to progress. And that's how you get strong mentally as well. There's nothing better than like sitting in a leg press and being able to move like, I don't know, 200 or 250 or like pick up 20-kilo dumbbells or like be on a lat pull down, be able to like smash out 8 reps on 80K. And you're like, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? Like, how cool is that? How many women can get to actually like do that? You know, be one of them.
be strong.
Be one of them.
So it's such a good feeling. It took me so long to get it, and now I get it. I'm like, I need to talk at any opportunity about this because it feels so different, and the physique looks different. And we actually spoke about, so we must talk about it before we wrap up about the
Yeah.
assisted and the natural side. And
Okay. Yeah,
so
of
I know
course.
you saw some stuff on social media the other day, and we said we'd talk about it. I mean, my view is that we're all working hard, we're all getting
Mhm.
after it, and that's, there's natural federations, there's assisted federations, but there is certainly, and the post you saw, it's like there's almost like this divide that doesn't need to
Yeah.
happen. What's your sort of experience over the years of seeing this? Because you've been in the
So
market for ages.
it's a funny one because women will use steroids or PEDs, however you want to call them, additionals, whatever, the extras, and they will point blank deny that they're using them. But you can see that they are. Their voice changes, there's hair, there's spots on the jawline, their jawline changes. Um, they get this, and I don't know if you've noticed, but if any guy starts taking steroids as well, my brother explained it to me the other day, you kind of get like this top heavy look, but then there might not be anything else, right? Women who use it also get that thickness in the traps, the shoulders, and the delts. Now, if you know what you're looking at, right, you know that people have been taking. Now, I've never injected anything. I use the liquid L-carnitine. I use growth. I've used Anavar, which I'm a fan of. I've never used injectable Primo, but I've used the tablets. And for, I think it was 10 days leading up to the Welsh and 10 days leading up to the finals, we put a small amount of Winstrol in, like a 2.5 milligram, very, very small amount, right? I've never injected anything. One, I'm very scared of my voice going. It does terrify me. And just I just don't really like needles and stuff. And if I can take it in an oral form, then that's the type I just will, right? So I've never been like, I take, yeah, but if someone asks me, I'm going to have an honest conversation and say, yes, this is what I've done. This is what I take. These are my reasons why. Now, I also have always said that I've never really wanted children, even from a child, right up until like kind of now, children has never been like something that I've wanted. Like, as do you know, some women are born, they're like, oh my God, I want children. Like, I love my dogs. Hi, Truffle. She's here. She don't leave my side. But like, as in kids and stuff, I'm not really massively maternal. So like, I made a decision. Like, I've used Anavar on and off for a number of years, even when I wasn't competing. Way before my brother was coaching me, and just because I was uneducated, I thought, well, yeah, I'm going to go hench, right? It's just silly. It's all been educated, but I also understand that there is a good possibility at the age that I am, that when my bloods come back, or if I go and have them done again in 3 months or 6 months' time, that I could have pushed myself into the menopause, perimenopausal. There's a good chance that my periods just like won't come back because of the levels of body fat that I went down to this time. But I made those decisions consciously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I made those decisions, and I will never tell somebody that I'm not using something and then them go away expecting to look like me, because there's an expectation. And if you're going to use any form of PEDs, but you're going to lie about it, it almost feels as there's something to be ashamed of.
Yes,
And there's nothing to be ashamed of if you choose to do it. And it's the same in the natural world. There's natural federations which you all get tested for, which is amazing. But if you're gonna compete with the big boys, say, who decide to take the additionals, right? Just don't be a dick about it.
mm-hmm.
You're a natural athlete, that's awesome. You've made your decision, that's awesome. Don't go bashing people and an underlying wave on your posts of people who do use them, because it's not fair. I think people who are natural athletes deserve a massive applause, because they get themselves in the condition, they're able to grow to the sizes that they do, and fucking fair play to you. Like, epic, right? I would never bash anyone for being a natty, just like no one should bash anyone for being someone who takes PEDs. We're all in the same remit. We're all doing the same thing. You know, you've made your choices because there might be 1 or 2 side effects. But guess what? If you use it right, there's very, very few side effects. It's all down to education, how you actually do it. So like, before you bash a full scope of bodybuilders online, just take a second, like,
Yeah,
because I've read a couple and I've almost wanted to go, whoa, hang on a minute. Yeah, but I don't, because it's just pointless, because there's no point starting a PED non-PED war. But like, we're all there, we're all doing the same job, and the people who don't need it, it's not even about needing it. I made the choice because I wanted to be better than where I got to, and I've never done tests, like, hands down, I've never done it. I've thought about it, but I'm also, like I said, with my ADHD, I'm one of those people that if my voice was to go, I would probably go, do you know what, fuck it, let's just go for it.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point.
then that would not be a good choice either, because so in one respect it keeps me level-headed, and in another respect it doesn't allow me to go off charts, because with you, we've all got addictive tendencies. Any bodybuilder, I don't care whether you've got ADHD or not, we've all got weird addictive personality traits. That's why we love competing, that's why we love the gym, that's why we go and we do what we do, because we're addicted to that feeling. It's like a drug. Do you know what I mean? So we're all addicted to something, but I'm addicted to what I do. But this is so important to me, my voice and like those additional bits, because I know if I have hands on, I'd probably be one of them who goes, fuck it, go on then. Let's go and see if we can go into the physique world and stuff. And I don't want to at 37,
Yeah, that's something I didn't think about actually with regards to like that, because the gateway is you open the gateway. I know Hana's other half Dan came on the pod once and he said it's like each PD is a gateway to the next PD, and I really liked that analogy, similar to what you're saying there. But
100%.
maybe the ADHD also, like people that are listening that are looking at what if they're going to go assisted or they're already assisted, it's important to maybe respond to that from your ADHD brain also, rather than like just maybe not understanding the ADHD and how that could feed into that turning into something very, very different.
Because I've had friends who started off bikini athletes and then within no time they're trying to be physique and they're taking all of this gear, and I'm like, are you sure there's not something wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
Like, as in, like, like, because I literally mean this is like all or nothing, like almost bipolar jumping. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, if you kind of gotta look out for that as well. If you've got someone who's coming to you who wants to try, and then the next thing, and they're really, really quickly trying to build it up, yeah, there's something you like. So
Mm.
I keep myself on a level head because I just know. I just know. And I like that bigger look, but I also don't want to push to that extent in an off season because I like to feel good all year round. So there's pros and cons. Would I want to be massive? Fucking right.
I know, yeah,
If there was no
same.
side effects, I would be like it already. I'd be huge. But the actual like reasonable train of thought then in my head makes me go, just take a second, just hold back a minute, because like once you go that route and you're like right in there, now there's no way coming back. There
Mm.
isn't. Like there's one amazing old bodybuilder that's been around. I won't mention her name just in case, but she's like in her 70s, a black woman. She's still around. She comes to like all like some of the local ones and stuff, and she's been going for years. And she touched on the extremity side a long, long time ago. It's truffle, man. And you can see it. And yeah, there's like the hairlines and bits and pieces, and there's no coming back from that. You can wear a headband, but you can't wear one for the rest of your life.
Mm.
So yeah, pros and cons. But if you're thinking about just diving into it, look at your mental health first.
Yeah, very relevant point. Yeah,
Especially as a female. Blokes don't tend to care, do they? They just like want to get hench, and it's all about the like, oh, I'm going to look like this and pull loads of girls. But if you've got a girl who's in her early 20s and they're like happy to jump on board that train without really like the thought processing, yeah, there's a bit more work I think that needs doing. And that's why I won't.
it's important with your coach as well to actually hopefully get a coach that gives a shit.
Yeah, because there's so many out there that don't, and they will exploit women as well. Like if you've got any coach that makes you feel icky or ask for something that just doesn't make you feel right, suggest something gear wise, photo wise, conversation wise, just get out.
Yeah. Or if they're just saying, take this
Do
and
this, do that, yeah, with no consequences. Just get out again. If you get that icky feeling, it's fuck the money for the rest of your month. Just get out.
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because your health long term is worth so much more. But people will do it because they want to impress their coach. Because
yeah,
it's not an impress your coach. Obviously, it's accountability, isn't it? So you want to do your best. You're going to do more than what they ask you, or that's what I would expect someone who I was coaching. It's like that's just the type of person. If I say they're going to do 10,000, they're probably going to want to try and do 11 or 12, just because that's just the way that they are.
mm,
So yeah, it's keeping a handle on that, and the people who really, really want to go level headed. But yeah, I've had coaches that just do not get it.
scared,
Do
very,
not give a shit. I had a coach before that was pushing me on like 18 milligrams of Anavar a day.
really,
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, and I
hell.
did that for 6 months.
Whoa.
I'll share that because, like, if it
Yeah, yeah,
helps
no,
somebody
but it's
else.
helped. Yeah,
But
it does
yeah,
help.
that was 2016.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 months. Yeah, that was the only thing I was touching then. I was doing Clen, but
Yeah.
that was the only actual like PED as such.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
and when I told my brother a couple of years back, he went, "Oh my God," he hit the roof.
yeah,
He was like, "How is your voice? How are you even like normal?"
yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
I think
And
Anavar.
that comes down to just trusting. Do you know what I mean? And like, I've not always been able to see eye to eye with like parents on a bodybuilding sense. It's hard, isn't it? Like being
Yes.
coached with your brother. Oh my God. Do you know what I mean? It was a big thing. So like back sort of 8 years ago, there's not a chance my brother could tell me what I needed to eat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like no, or my dad. So I was going to somebody else, putting the trust in there, doing the intermittent fasting, and 1,000 and something calories a day, like really low, and then taking that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And I
Anavar.
looked like shit in comparison to now. I looked like it was good, but compared to now, no, I look like crap.
Mm,
Really, like
also as well, isn't it? It's like you can. it's like that band-aid type vibe, isn't it? But actually the band-aid's not actually getting you the better look. But Anavar is so readily available and thrown about now. It is wild
Yeah.
because I've spoken to so many people that are like, oh, I've taken it for X amount of time. I don't really know when it's stopping. I'm just going with what the coach says, and I'm like, have you had bloods? Have you got any is there anything? And it's like, oh no, it's just I'm just taking
Oh,
it. And
yeah.
that again, it's like that's not the consumer's fault to a certain degree, although there is that naivety. So it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to sort of, I'm not trying to blame anyone, but the conversations I have, it's important to talk about it, like your example, because it might
Yeah.
help one person to maybe just think about it a little bit more,
I think women, especially when they come to a coach, they put their trust, especially if you've got a male coach, they
Yeah.
put their trust 100% into that coach. So they would expect, or I did back at those times, that my coach would care. Everything that was on my plan was because it should be there, not because it's like it's going to push me into like a danger zone potentially. Because when you are paying money and it's your like disposable income, you would expect someone to
Yes.
automatically give you everything that I don't know, you would just you would assume that you'd be paying for, wouldn't you? So if someone tells me that's what I'm going to be need to take in, that's what I'm going to need to take. But I found out a few months ago that one of the other girls that was on the team at the same time, she was on that plus Diana Ball and another load of other stuff. And I was like,
Wow.
oh my God, how? Why? Like, what did you achieve then? Nothing. Like, it's just mad. Like, but
Mm.
people do. Like, the more I hear about it, the more I realize that it's not spoken about. Your coach will automatically, I'm not saying yours in every coach,
Yeah.
but a lot of coaches will just automatically send you through a gear protocol with no conversation, no reasonings as to why. It's mainly from the coach rather than from the client. This is just my experience from stories I've heard of people coming to me, and just some of my own experiences. But no, when it comes to my stuff with my brother, I went to him,
Mm.
and I was like, right, this is what I want to do. This is where I am. And he's like, well, you do know the age that you are again. You could shut down your reproductive systems. You could set yourself into perimenopausal. And you're like, yeah. And, I'm suffering with the night sweats and stuff now and things through the night. And you're trying to find out, oh, is it vitamin D? Is it magnesium? Is it my actual hormones? So it's a bit of a guessing game. But yeah, if anyone's going into it, especially with the PEDs, I'm not going to say don't do them, and I'm not going to say like do them, but just make sure you know exactly what you're doing. And if you haven't been training for like 2, 3, 4, if not 5 years, don't even fucking touch them. Don't go there.
Mm.
Just don't, because you haven't been training long enough.
It's a big commitment. It is.
Yeah, and as soon as you put that first, whether it's an injection or whether it's in a tablet, and same as a boy, as soon as you put that first bit of testosterone in or whatever, you're not the same for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think boys realize putting testosterone into them at 19 and 20, like, literally screws them up for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It's not going to work properly. And when I was explaining to lads who were coming to my gym when I had it with my dad, and saying like, you do realize what you've done over there is just like really messed you up. No idea. No idea. But you've got to remember, a lot of people who sell you gear are like drug dealers per se. And they're not like, if you'll go into a local person that does it, they're
Mm.
always going to tell you to take 10 times more than you should because they want your money. They're never going to tell you the right amount. And no course is the same for anybody. So like, you really got to do your research. And just because I look like I do doesn't mean you want to be taking what I take.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, it's
you
it's
know,
I think as well, like relating to what you said about there about guys, when you talk to a lot of people about like, oh, I'm on TRT, and you're like, oh, how much are you taking? And you're like, that's not TRT. That's super physiological. But there's almost like this movement in the
yeah,
male side of things where TRT is like 300, and you're like, that's not TRT. But this again, it's thrown around. You see someone on Instagram and doing it on their protocol, whatever, and you're like, oh, that's TRT, and it's like, no, but I guess as well, it's these conversations that on the podcast and conversations you have and stuff. It's
yeah,
hoping to sort of reach people, but it is tricky because it's magpie syndrome a lot of the time. You want
But I
something.
haven't got the confidence to have these conversations though.
Yeah.
Or people don't have the bollocks like you have to launch a podcast and to have women that actually will talk about it,
Thank you.
because it's all like you said, everyone's like everything's bright and shiny and it's magnified and it all looks amazing, but so does being famous. But there's a flip side. Do you know what I mean? And what's the flip side to being famous? A lot of them say, oh, I'd rather not. Do you know what I mean? So like just because something looks like it's incredible, like Venus Williams, I know I refer to the tennis players all the time, right? But I wouldn't want to do what they do.
I
It
know.
looks incredible, right? And it's fucking amazing. I'm like, oh my God. Could I do it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Would I want to try? No, because I just know I would not be do you know what I mean? It's not my like thing that I'm really good at. And some people are really good at bodybuilding and some people should just be, do you know what I mean? It's
Lifestyle.
just lifestyle and just bodybuilders that don't actually compete. And if I'm ever told don't ever compete again, I won't compete. Do you know what I mean? If my brother says, you're not ready, I'm not going to stand on the stage and do it just to make a number up. I'd rather pull the prep of 30 weeks and diet on for a bit longer, not just to do it. So, like, yeah, just,
Mm. Yeah, there's
yeah, there's
so much.
nothing wrong with not competing. There's
Absolutely.
nothing wrong with not competing. And just because you don't compete, it doesn't make you any less of a bodybuilder. If anything, it probably would make you a better one.
At times, yeah, because you're not having to do it for any validation, are you?
Yeah, and you're stable, you know what your goals are. It's you're doing it because you want to be strong and you want to be that fit and healthy person. Where when you step into the competitive remit, it opens up a whole new reason why. It does.
Yeah,
Like,
it's literally
yeah.
wild. Like it is such a wild journey. I mean, I've got lifestyle clients. Shout out to the ones that listen. They're fucking bossing it. Like, and they don't want to step on stage. And it's always a conversation I have where they're like, I don't want to do what you do, but can you coach me? I'm like, fucking hell, yeah. And they
Yeah.
absolutely love it. They're getting job promotions left, right, and center, and all of these things that come from the bodybuilding being such a good purpose and them feeling better in themselves, them
Mhm.
purpose. Okay, we've got, all of these things kicking off in life because I feel like I'm a stronger human, as it were.
Oh, definitely. It gives you an armor.
Yeah.
Like I wear what I wear in my muscle because it gives me like a strength in my own, like in my own sense. People see me looking strong and there's a different kind of level of respect that I get, and I like it because it allows me to still be a little bit standoffish. Like that's kind of part of
Protect yourself.
yeah, it kind of like it puts a little bit of a line between me, because people do a bit like, ooh, female with muscle, I'm not going to talk to her today. I'm like, yes, great, awesome. But then with women, it's different because women feel that they can then approach and I'll have conversations. But yeah, like it's an armor, it's a protection of sorts. Do you know what I mean? And you can use it to make friendships, or you can use it to scare people away. So it's quite good.
Yeah, there's nothing better than feeling proud of your physique because it's like, it just feels so good. But if you can bring that pride into what has got you the physique, it's like you're a super person. Like, I,
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're making decisions that are based on that, you've got your right circle, what we've spoken about. It's like you just suddenly feel like, wow, this is where I'm meant to be, which is the movement that we're trying to, of
Hmm.
course, continue to empower through the podcast. Now,
Yeah.
what I want to ask you, you've heard me ask so many people this. I have to ask you, what would you tell yourself to start before you got into bodybuilding? Obviously, your answer might be different because you've had parents and grown up with bodybuilding, but is there anything you'd maybe give as an advice for like a first timer that's listening, other than everything we've said today, of
Well,
course?
take your time. Take your time. Be realistic, like
Mm,
properly realistic in your goals, and don't listen to everybody, because everybody is going to tell you you look amazing,
mhm,
right? It's the ones that say to you, hang on a minute. It's the ones that actually are willing to have the difficult conversations with you are the ones that you should be listening to. Everyone's going to clap. Everyone is going to clap for you, whether you look like shit or whether you look really, really good. It's just filter out the noises and the ones that actually really tell you the truth, because that's what counts. And find a coach. If you're going to go into it, find a coach that actually properly cares. Do you know what I mean? Don't go for the glitz and glamour because they drive a Porsche or a Lamborghini or they've coached a number of different pros or whatever. Like, it's great and they're doing successful, right? But what a glitzy lifestyle doesn't mean a great coach.
Mhm.
It just doesn't. So like, resonate with someone, make sure it's true, but just take your time. Don't rush it.
Mm.
It's like the marriage. It's what was it? The hare and the tortoise, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
tortoise will always win. And if you really want to be your absolute best or whatever it is, and it doesn't matter if it's the gym, it can be anything, apply 100% and you will definitely, definitely win. And it's not about first, second, or third, it's about in here.
Mm.
Just don't rush it because the stage is always going to be there. It took me 10 years, 10
Yeah.
years to get back.
Yeah. I love
You
that.
know?
Winning is up
Yeah.
here. It so is because, if you'd, as an example of that, if you'd placed second at the finals, but you'd had the same experience and felt like that in your physique as the Welsh, you would have still won, even if you came second. So that
Mhm.
in itself, and I know you would feel like that. I know you would because I know you, and I'm the same. If I
Yeah.
don't win the accolade, but I feel my best and I've brought everything, I've still one because it's bodybuilding, guys. Like it's subjective, and it is. You never know who's going to turn up on the day. But as you said,
Yeah.
if you feel good about it and you've done everything you can, that's the difference, isn't it?
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you'll never be perfect. Don't ever expect perfection either, because it just doesn't happen.
Mm.
Like it just doesn't. Like everything can go to absolute and then something. But it's just how you ride with it. And that's what makes the athlete and that's what makes the person afterwards. It's like everyone can turn up for the really, really good days and be like, yeah, everything's fine. But it's on the days that are really hard that you still turn up. They're the ones that mold you and they're the ones that shape you.
Yeah, it's yeah, bodybuilding. We know
It's
is
wild.
yeah, it's wild, but absolutely the one of the most wonderful things in the whole world. But of course, my G, thank you so much for
You're
coming
welcome.
on us.
Thank you. It's wild. I never expected in my wildest dreams to sit here and just talk about it. Yeah.
No, thank
Yeah.
you. Appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
transparency as well, because again, it's stuff that we don't have to talk about these things, but that one person that could be listening,
Hmm.
perhaps, they reach out to you or or they take some thought into their own journey to help them, and that's
Definitely.
important.
And they're
Oh,
welcome to, if anyone is struggling, like whether it's bodybuilding or just your mental health or just anything, just reach out. I'm here. I might take me an hour or so to reply sometimes, but I am here. I'm a voice noter, so be prepared.
I always say to you, I love your voice notes.
I'm a
I,
voice
I like
noter.
to
If I go to text, I just forget.
I like to take time in a specific time of my day to listen to your voice notes because it's well, as we've spoken about with ADHD, I want to listen to, I want to understand what you're saying, and then voice note back, and it's really nice because it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
make me smile even when
Well, you
it's
get like 6 minutes of my life of the bouncing of the non-linear thought. So it takes you a while to reply because you're like ping
I want
pong
to, yeah,
all
yeah,
over the place.
important.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think as well, it's like if anyone is, communicating with someone that maybe your partner has ADHD or whatever it is, it's like actually giving that person some time to actually understand their brain and be responsive. And that can help as well, kind of, because it can help you feel heard, which is often what you don't feel when you've got such a busy
Oh,
mind. And I feel like that's important as well.
definitely. Definitely. And just look into it. If anyone thinks that they might be, like, there's a couple of Diary of a CEO podcasts I've been watching, and he's done a lot on there just recently with ADHD and like the menopause and changes and things. And like, I sat there like,
Oh,
oh, wow.
tick,
Oh,
tick.
wow. Like tick, 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 tick. Yeah, that's absolutely nailed it. And I've learned a lot. So by doing that, I can then talk to other people because, yeah, I get it. But I found that high, high, high doses of vitamin D and magnesium really massively helps with ADHD.
Oh, okay.
I've been trialing it over the last 2 weeks, and I've missed a couple of days, and I'm all like, oh my god,
Oh,
what's going
wow.
on? And I'm talking like 20,000 IUs of vitamin D, mind, like proper high.
Yeah.
It's not toxic. We're led to believe that it's toxic, and it really isn't. It's what we need. So yeah, I'm doing a few experiments with myself to see if we can get it a little bit more into control. I'll feed back to you on that. But yeah, just reach
Yeah.
out if you need to.
Thank you. And
You're
make sure
welcome.
you send me your bikini competition pictures after this because I want to see what you look like.
I wore Cadbury's purple as well the first ever time on stage. It's so funny. Oh, it's so funny. I got such a big head. Such
Lollipop
a
head,
big head.
little body. I love that. Well, I'm going to speak to you soon, my G.
You
Thank
shall
you.
indeed. Thank you. See
Bye.
you soon. Bye.
Bye.